Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and listening into the podcast. And because you've been such faithful listeners of the podcast, we've been ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So I really appreciate you for listening into the podcast. All right. Now, I can't wait for today's conversation. Today, I'm talking with Martine Cohen. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Martine. She's the author of the book, No More Layers: Discover Your Inner Power and Reclaim True Freedom from the Inside Out. Already, I love the book just from the title. And she's also a speaker and transformative coach, both a lawyer, which she'll say a little more about that, and a corporate leadership consultant. Martine is known for her ability to help high achieving professionals navigate personal and professional transitions. Welcome, Martine.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Robin. I'm really happy to be here.
So glad you're here. All right, so let's jump right in. I just read a little bit official bio introduction, but why don't you tell us in your own words two things, whatever you want to tell us about you, and then about the work you do.
Absolutely. So I think what I want to do is just explain to your beautiful audience a little bit about my own journey and sort of how I came to be what I do now. So I started off my career as, a corporate attorney and super gung-ho and excited and multitasking and taking on too much and never knowing how to say no. And I don't know, that probably sounds familiar to some of your audience members. Loving law and loving the, strategy, mental gymnastics of it, feeling a little bit like out of breath sometimes with it, right? Because the pace is really fast. But nevertheless, I kept going and going and going. I don't know if some of you have experienced this, but like when you have that little voice inside of you that's like, maybe you need to shift, or maybe you need to do something differently, or something more, or something else. And I was like hearing it, but not really listening to it. And if you don't listen to that little inner voice, it doesn't go away. It just gets louder and louder and louder. And one day, mine literally hit me over the head. Literally. So I was in a car accident, pretty serious one. There's a car that rammed into me on the driver's side. I don't know. They told me later that person was on their phone. I don't know because I didn't see it happening. I lost consciousness, and when I came to, um, I don't know how long I lost. I had like paramedics that were just like over me and trying to talk to me, and I thought I was yelling, answering them, and they could barely hear me. So I was later diagnosed with post-concussive syndrome, which means my brain wasn't fully functional. It would take a while for it to recover if, and that if was terrifying to me, if it would recover. Just to place the context, I don't work as an attorney. I think I am an attorney, which means that became my identity, right? I think a lot of high achieving people, but women, sort of take on that role, and it's like, oh, this is my identity. I'm a lawyer. I need to be doing this. I need to be working X amount of hours. I need to have that kind of external success. I need to be, having the biggest cases, the most interesting, fascinating life. But at the same time, it's also a lot. So when everything sort of came to a halt for me, and I was thrust into this darkness, and I would not be able to have the conversation I'm having with you now. I wouldn't be able to understand what you would say. Separately, the words made sense to me. Together, I couldn't put sentences. That was very, very scary for this high achieving person who kind of lived in their head and had fun with words and all that kind of stuff, and logic and mental strategy, to all of a sudden be downsized to a place where I don't even know who I am anymore.
Mm.
And I didn't know that I had identified so intricately with my brain. I had no idea. But it was a moment of darkness where I couldn't feel my personality. I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know how long it would last and if I would ever become me again. I have to tell you,
Mm.
that's the most terrifying experience of my life that I wish on no one, but it opened up this entire world to me that I wish on everyone, right? So I didn't know what else to do, and some sort of instinct, intuition, I can't tell you what it was, made me go inward and starting to just look at this darkness because there was nothing else I could do. And when I did, I felt like some sort of person that was like exploring my inner landscape. And I found a lot of, like, I call them layers in the book, but they're weeds. And what I mean by that is fears from before, and limiting beliefs and identities and mental constructs and conditioning from early on childhood or from society, my own expectations, expectations of others, and all this gunk and all this stuff that was there that I thought I had worked on years ago, or that I figured I grew, and therefore it wasn't a part of me, and I wasn't, lugging it forward, that extra, baggage. On airlines, they charge you for excess baggage. In life, I think you just carry it. You don't even know you have it with you. Um, but I started looking at that, and because my brain was dysfunctional, it didn't stop me. I wasn't afraid to feel all these emotions. I wasn't afraid to work through them. I wasn't afraid to feel the fear, the intensity of it. Nothing was telling me, hey, don't rock the boat. You can't find out about yourself. Imposter syndrome, fear, perfectionism. All these things might have been there, but they were just there. There was no judgment around them. My brain wasn't functional enough to give me any story. Oh my God, you shouldn't feel this way. This shouldn't be happening. Why are you carrying this? What does this mean? None of it. It was really quiet and still. So I could just walk in and go through all these things and work through them. But as I worked through them, at one point I was like, wait, I can't understand the conversation of my kids or my family around me, but how do I know that I'm doing this? Like, what's this awareness about? Where's this consciousness coming from? Because I assume consciousness and brain are the same thing, but they're not. And that's when I started realizing, oh my God, I'm not my brain. And we're not our brain, we're so much more. And that was the biggest aha moment of my life. Like literally, I was like, oh my God, I'm not my brain. And then, oh my God, I'm so much more. What is that? And I went to explore that in a very fearless, kind of flowy way. And it was absolutely incredible. It took every ounce of courage, but it gave me such a gift in return.
Mm.
And once I was able to heal my brain, and once I went back to, not back, but forward, to sort of like feeling like myself again, I was like, okay, this is not just for me. There's no way in the world that this discovery, this process is just for me to then, like, okay, go on my merry way. No, no, no. It's too life altering. And this is for me to go and show people what's possible and teach them what I believe is their birthright, which means the right to get to know who you are, to free yourself from the inside out. That's why the book is called that, of anything that holds you back from what you want to be, what you know you can be, but something external to you kind of tells you, don't do that, don't rock the boat, this is what you should. There's shoulds and can'ts and won'ts and all these things, and just like freely choose from a place of alignment, from your inner wisdom. That female inner spiritual wisdom that we all have. We need to celebrate that. We need to cultivate that, regardless of what we do in the world for work or as a career or as projects. We need to first and foremost recognize and acknowledge the powerful being that we are, and then act from that place. And so I'm happy to say that I'm pivoting full time to this, because it's like I said to you before we started this, law is my passion. I love it. But literally this is my calling. No More Layers and the book, and helping people, and workshops on self-leadership and talks, and my coaching that I do with individuals is really a calling.
Yes, I love everything about that story. I have 10,000 questions competing right now.
Somebody's gonna be first, I know. Go ahead.
Okay. Now I know this is your story and you're very familiar with it, but okay, so I'm gonna go back and unpack some things for
Sure.
people who, may be at a different point in their own journey and can get a little more clarity. And it's almost like you have, uh, unbeknownst to you, listened to the past few episodes because I talked about a lot of the things that you're talking about in your story today. The whole thing, I call that like the car accident for you, I call it the wake up call. I just did an episode on that and that sense of calling. So anyway, that was my aside. Now for the questions to unpack some of this. Let's go back. Let's go back before the car accident. You said you were having some inkling, like some knowing, like you knew something was there. Was say more about what was that calling prompting you, so in case someone else is experiencing, they can identify it.
Absolutely. Great
So
question.
say a little more about that.
Yeah, so it comes in different ways. Like for me, it was just this gnawing feeling of, don't think you need to work so hard just to be okay, or just to be acceptable, or just to be accepted, or it was always there, right? Because I was like, I didn't consider myself a high achiever, but by any means and standard, everybody else did. So I guess I was, right? And I do know now through this process of layers that for me the my sort of primary layer was perfectionism. Like there's no question. So I've worked through that. So I say like I'm a recovering perfectionist just with myself, but being hard on yourself, sort of being not just your own worst critic, but in reality, you sort of like your brain shifts it into befriending yourself, and you think you're your own best friend, but really you keep on pushing and pushing and pushing yourself to the point where not only are you like lower down on your list, you get kicked off the list, right? And
Mm,
then it's like everybody else's needs and trying to people please and trying to please the partners in the law firm and trying to please the clients. And, somebody told me once something really wise is just because you can, it doesn't mean you should.
mhm,
And that really stuck with me. And it was like, oh my goodness, I can and I can do a lot of things, but it really doesn't mean I should. And that was something I wasn't aware of before. If I can do it, boom, I'm going to go do it. And it doesn't matter the cost and the price for me. It doesn't matter if I'm depleted at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if my cup is not full, right? And so that was that kind of feeling of I'm kind of exhausted. I kind of feel depleted. So instead of leaning into that, I would push myself more. So for a
mm,
lot of people, that's how it shows up. But from some other people, it's like, I don't feel free. I feel constricted. I feel restrained, right? Some people might feel that. Some other people might feel, I just don't feel fulfilled. And when is it going to be my turn to just do something for me, right? And for other people, it's they don't give themselves permission to do something that feels right to them, permission to even go and find out what that might be, because they
mm,
feel they have a lot of obligations or a lot of responsibility or have to answer to so many other people instead of first answering to themselves.
mm.
So it can
Yeah.
show up in a lot of different ways.
Yes. Yes. Okay, we're going to stay in that period for a while here. All right. So this was before the accident, and you said earlier that law was your passion. So I want to unpack that a little more about your passion. Earlier on, did you always know you wanted to go in law? Like when you were little Martine, did you say, I
So
love law. I want to go into law.
funny enough, in high school, I had an opportunity to take a class in law. I was 15 years old, and before that, I wanted to be a teacher. I come from a long line of teachers and professors. I was like, okay, I'm going to teach because that gives me time for my kids. This is little me at like 14, 15, right? And then I take this law course, and I can't tell you what it is, but something fascinated me about it. The logic, the words. I love words. My paintbrush, like I create, my creativity is with words. In case you can't tell, I love words. So law is all about words for me because it's about creating like mechanisms and protection for your clients and a vision and their business through words. That's all law is. But you just have to know how to play with it with words. So I got so fascinated by law that I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. But I still had that concern about, will I have enough time for family? Or is my career going to take up my job? So I did start off, I got a teaching diploma right out of high school, and I started off and then I was like, no, that doesn't align. And I went to law school. And in law school, I was like, oh, that's so aligned. And I did it, and I worked as a lawyer, and I was a happy lawyer. I literally was one of those happy lawyers. However, I believe the universe had other plans for me. It just gave them to me in stages. In its grace, it gave me some grace. But at some point, um, I kind of felt that I'm not so sure this is what I'm supposed to be doing because parts of it felt depleting. And yet there are parts of it that I loved. The part where you're of service to other people, you help them grow their vision, you help them grow their company, you bring them that kind of. But I guess I was meant to do it in this way, not in that way. But I needed law because it really grounded me and it helped me, but when the universe decided, okay, you're ready now for the next step, you're ready for the big stage. I was like, nah, I'm not. Like I was the kind of person that not only did I have the perfectionist thing, but it was also like, can I be in the background a little bit? Like, I don't want to be like center stage. I don't know why, but that was always my thing. And I was never in the background, but I always wanted to be in the background. And I still want to be in the background, but I get it. It's not what the universe wants for me. So if you have that internal tug of war, lean into it, even if it's scary, and just start asking questions. Don't do anything different because your brain will stop you if you try to, but just say, hold on, I want to hear your message. I won't change anything, but I just want to hear what you have to say because there's a lot of value to that little gnawing voice. Whatever it's telling you, just go find out what it is. You do not need to be hit over the head.
Yes. And it sounds like you had some sensitivity to hear that because I'm imagining for some people, it may be difficult. They might not have a connection with their inner wisdom or their inner knowing, like you seem to have a clear, like you knew was knocking on your door, so to speak, and you were just saying, "Not yet, not yet, not yet."
Yes.
So, did you cultivate? How did you come to have the awareness to recognize and hear and know that knocking, so to speak?
I want to say that I think we all have it. And I want people, I want the listeners to really feel that in their body. Like even just close their eyes for a second and say, if I were to have it, where do I think it would reside inside of me? Because the if sort of relaxes your mind into getting out of your way and allowing you to actually feel your body, because we don't always take the time or give ourselves permission, and certainly society doesn't, to sort of like, where in my body am I feeling something? Because your body has a lot of wisdom, tremendous wisdom, that we were just disconnected from because life asks you to disconnect from within and just be so outwardly focused and milestones oriented and an outcome sort of vested, when in reality everything starts from within. So that's what I would say. Like, close your eyes and just say, if I knew where it resided, where would it be? And some people will say my stomach, some people will say my chest, some people say my throat, right? It's your throat, then it means that you're not expressing your truth. If it's your stomach, that's a seat of your emotions. That means you want to lean into that because that's where your voice speaks to you. And that probably is the place that you deny the most, right? If it's in your chest and it's at your heart, might not be as open. And that's also the seat of like feeling anxiety or feeling restriction. Are you living your life fully? Are you really doing what speaks to you? And those are the small little voices, or the way in which to start hearing that. And by the way, the more you listen to it, the more it speaks to you. That's the beauty of that kind of connection. All you have to do is be open to it and just say, you know what? I want to hear you a little bit more. And it will come to you more and more. And if it feels scary and destabilizing, that's okay. It's simply because it's part of the unknown. What you want to do is bring that into your comfort zone. You don't have to stretch outside your comfort zone. Just bring more things into your comfort zone at your own pace, and give yourself some grace for just even wanting to do that. Because I don't
Yeah.
think we give ourselves enough grace.
Yes, yes. Okay, all right. So that's very helpful. All right. So now let's we're going to continue on your career journey. So you that kind of exhaustion and all that was louder, louder, louder. Then you had the accident, and then you talked about finding yourself, your kind of new self after the accident. So then tell us what happened in your career once you had that shift.
Yeah, so it's fantastic because what ended up happening is organically, I would start having people coming to me. I started a little group in my living room, and then people were asking me for sessions, which, I mean, I do legal stuff. So I was like, session. So for a while, I felt like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's like, an attorney, I do law, but then I do this, and like, who am I? What is going on? And I was really kind of like at odds with myself, which was a very strange place to be. And then I realized, why does it have to be an either or? Why is it not an and proposition? And that was the next aha moment where I was like, let me take all my skills from law and let me apply them to this new thing, which was kept on calling me. And I knew now better than to ignore, because I was like, I'm good with one concussion. I don't need more. But it became sort of like, what if we applied strategy to life? Because we don't. What if we applied the kind of mindset that I had learned in law, but to life, to our emotional body, to our thinking mind? And then it opened up an entire new world and realm of not just possibilities, but openness and expansion and a new way to live, and different kind of freedom, and really sort of like embodying and embracing, not just accepting all of who we are. And it did that for me. I can only talk what I walk. So that kind of authenticity, I think, helps my clients in realizing that, okay, so there is a proven method, there's a proven way, and for each person is going to be different, but I guide my clients on their own personal way. It's like super customized, right? But so at first I did both. And then slowly I realized I'm outgrowing law, which shocked me tremendously. I thought I'd be a lawyer for the rest of my life. I really did. And then I gave myself the time to not grieve that, but sort of to allow to release, like, so what would it look like if I stopped doing law and I just did this full time? And I really did give myself a lot of grace because I love law, but I no longer miss it. Because I really allowed myself to go through the process that my entire body needed. I didn't rush it and I didn't dwell on it. I just really organically just followed the lead, that my body in its wisdom showed me for me to be able to really step into the shoes that universe had in mind for me. And that's where I'm at now. And so for anybody who is questioning their path or wanting a shift, that's your first step to the rest of your life in a really good way. And take it step by step. Don't rush your process because as you're taking the step, it's almost like the path is being sort of shown to you beneath your feet. It's not, it doesn't, it's like very presence. It's a very presencing exercise of being fully in the moment, in which case you don't feel fear and you're not in your past, and you're not in the future, you're right there present, and it's going to ask for all of your presence and all of your courage. But as you walk it, the next step shows itself to you. And so if you can just hold on to that and really hold on tight to all of who you are, you find your own path as well.
I love that on so many levels.
It's very juicy, but I'm
Yeah.
expressing it this way because I really want the audience to feel like it's okay that it's scary. It's okay that it's unknown. It's open, and it's not the Wild West. It's actually your path that's more aligned with you as you grow, that is showing itself to you. And not all you have to do because it's a big step, but if you can trust it, but for a moment, it'll give you more reasons for you to trust. And I get that it's scary. And that's why I'm speaking this way, because that's not a reason to step away from it. That's just a reason to honor yourself as you step into it.
Was there something that helped you? I mean, we know that you didn't want to go back to before the accident, but was there something specifically that helped you keep going in the midst of maybe any doubt or fear, the kind of fear that you're talking about moving past? Did you have a particular thing you did, or something you said to yourself? What helped you kind of feel the fear and do it anyway?
Yeah, I love that. So in my particular case, it was really the experience of not having my brain in my way that then there's a deeper inner knowing that, when you know something, you can't unknow it anymore. And even your brain will defer to you on that because it knows that it can't measure up, kind of thing. And so that's what happened to me. But I thought about precisely what you're saying for my clients because I don't want them to go the concussion route. I'm like, you can do this work, and I promise you no concussion required. So I created this brain hack. I have a lot of brain hacks for my clients because this is what you need. And so you turn your fear into curiosity. And that mantra really helps because in the moment of curiosity, when you give your brain curiosity to be busy with, it forgets to be afraid. Like if you try anything and you say, okay, I'm going to approach this with curiosity, and you start getting curious, you will not only not feel your fear in that moment, but you will forget that you had the fear. It works beautifully. It's incredible. And it takes like literally 10 seconds of awareness. Turn your fear into curiosity. And my clients just adopt it on a regular basis and day to day because you have no idea how many times a day we're afraid and we don't even feel it. And also, it's to understand that our biggest fear is not the object of your fear, it's feeling fear itself. So when you understand that and you're like, oh, this is why I'm afraid to go there, because I'm afraid to feel that feeling of fear, then you can ask yourself, well, is that such a big deal for you? Like, would you be okay feeling it for a moment? Like, we start questioning. The art of no more layers is the art of questioning. And the more you question, the less anything has a grip on you, and then the more you move towards yourself, right? But
Mhm.
it's about going home again, right? Home to yourself, right? It's finding that cozy home, homey place that resides within you. So it's really those two things. It's first switching your fear into curiosity because it forces your brain to get into the present moment, but it keeps it busy with something fun. Right?
Mm.
Your brain's like, ooh, let's go be curious. And it's like, great. And then you just guide your brain into what kind, what kind, and then you question. Once you're curious, curiosity is about questioning. That's the next step. And as you question, you get all these aha moments because you're going to find out what's inside of you.
Mm. Yes, those are such powerful strategies and something that someone can do right away, even today, even
Right
right
away,
now.
right away, right away. And there's a whole chapter in the book on creating your own inner boardroom, which is really juicy, which is where you go in and whatever it is that whatever crossroads you're at, it could be something small, it could be a challenge in your day. I really walk you through creating your own boardroom where you're at the head of that meeting and you're calling the shots, not your fears, not chasing, not greed, not anything that holds you back, but rather you go and explore yourself in a very safe, it can take you 5 minutes, and then you can take your next action from a place of choice, not from a place of like, confinement or being forced to do something or rush or whatever it is. So that's
Yes.
just another thing to think about. There are a lot of different like methods and brain hacks and client stories and all sorts of things and exercises in the book that really concretely walk you through things. So, each reader can find their own path.
Yes, and I appreciate you sharing those particular tools, I'll call them, here now, because people could just get started and then get the book to continue it. And so I was going to ask you for my one of my standard questions is to ask something that you would suggest for the listener, and you automatically gave those tools and tips and strategies. So I really appreciate that, especially for women at a crossroads in a place similar to where you were. Okay. All right. So you've been generous with your time. I just want to ask you one more question before we tell people how to get in touch with you. All right. Is there something that we didn't get to talk about? We know who's listening now. Is there something that I didn't get to ask you that you don't want her to walk away from this podcast without hearing? What's something you'd say to her?
I think we're conditioned as women to believe that if we don't follow the path that's been traced for us and we don't even realize it's been traced for us, we think it's our choice, that there's something wrong with us and that we have to prove ourselves. And I'd want to distill both of those myths. You're worthy because you're here, because you're alive, and your job is to go within and find out who you are so you can do that really, really well. It's your responsibility, it's your privilege, and it's your birthright. And there is never anything wrong with you, no matter what it feels like. And it's okay to acknowledge those feelings. You don't have to buy into feelings that don't align with you, and you don't have to buy in and believe thoughts that your brain generates that don't align with you. And on that note, I just want to say that there's one more thing that I do want to gift your audience with. And it's a 2-day mindset reset about how to quieten the thoughts and how to work through thoughts so that we don't think that we are our thoughts or have to become our thoughts or have to believe everything our thoughts tell us about who we think we are, we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do. So we create some space within which we can start that kind of like quest and path towards our own inner freedom.
Yes. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And thank you for your generosity with that. And we'll be sure to put the information in the show notes. Uh, all right. So Martine, I know you have a big speaking opportunity coming up later today, and you are here with full heart and spirit and sharing freely and with such generosity. So I really appreciate you for taking the time out and being here today.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's been so fun to sort of like have this conversation and then play with you like this.
Yes, I'm glad you enjoyed it because I did too, and I can go on, but I won't. So thank you for being here. Okay, everyone, I'd love to hear your response to this episode. You can follow me at Robin L. Owens, PhD, at Robin L. Owens, PhD, mostly on LinkedIn, although I'm on all channels. I'd love to hear your response to this episode. And if you heard something that just sparked something that resonated with you in this podcast, Martine has a resource for you, and I too have a resource to help you get in touch with that inner wisdom we talked about to get clear and notice those wake up calls and get connected to just making your next right step. And so I created a short audio course called Clarity for What's Next. Clarity for What's Next. So you can just start with your next step, and you can get information about that and or just go ahead and roll at leadershippurposeinstitute.com/clarity. leadershippurposeinstitute.com/clarity. And you'll be right there. So, Martine, you see, we have similar love, similar work,
I love that you
similar,
did that. That's great. Yes, we do.
and it's absolutely wonderful. Okay, everyone, I'm glad you were here to experience this joy fest between the two of us. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.